I was going to talk a little bit about the local challenges of global green. I mean, we have this, we're in an international practice. We work in a lot of different countries around the world, but each location is very specific. And so I was going to talk about two projects in particular. One is in Valencia, which is a project we've been working on for several years, and then I was going to talk about IQL, which Tom talked about, and there we're looking at a wider area, but I was going to talk very specifically about a green wall project that we're doing. Both projects are around railway infrastructure and how these cities are beginning to green and develop green infrastructure where once we had a kind of industrial infrastructure. So what are the components of a contemporary urban landscape in the 21st century, and how do we begin to integrate green infrastructure into our cities and our lives? I think there are many levels. We have to understand what are the activities that represent the actual values of the society. What is the culture? How do we begin to then activate spaces to engage the users? What are those activities? And then how do we embody that the spirit of the local community? We need to look at the ecology and the as well as the urban systems. What is the human impact on the environment? How can we try and reduce waste and so on? How can we innovate? There are a lot of innovations being brought forward just in everyday technical aspects that we have to deal with, like irrigation and soils and planting trees in cities. And then how do we manage damaged and reclaimed land in our cities? So all of these are a kind of multi-layered urban ecology between the cultural habitat, the natural habitat, the water, the green infrastructure. So the project I wanted to talk about in detail is the project in Valencia, and I wanted to try and explain how we take on, we do a lot of research at the beginning of our projects, trying to understand the local, the natural ecology and the culture of a place. So Valencia has a very long and interesting history, and it's really grown up around their history in relationship to water. So, there's a mountain range that surrounds the city that then drains water into this very rich and fertile valley, which is the Huerta. It's also got a very freshwater lagoon to the south of Valencia, where the rice comes from in Valencia, the paella and that kind of thing. And then, of course, the Mediterranean Sea. So all these sort of references to do with water and the natural environment are things that inspire us when we start to look at the development of a project. So here you can see the many different types of water, with the freshwater albufera, the Mediterranean Sea, the water source in the mountains, and then how that irrigates the plain. We also look at the local architectural traditions and how we can begin to reinterpret that in a contemporary landscape vocabulary. So you can see here that the site is this 23-hectare site in the middle of Valencia. It's the old railway land, and Valencia has put together a public-private partnership, the Valencia Parque Central Company, which is a mixture of people from the city, the regional government, the state government, the railway company, to put the high-speed rail line underground. At the moment, they have a temporary station that's along this edge, which connects to Madrid. So there's a very fast line connection to Madrid. But as you can see, the railway has cut off the city one side from the other. And part of the main concept for the project was to try and bring these communities together, to draw them into the center of the park, allow them to find these different spaces, and then move through and connect to parts of the city that have been disconnected. The other thing about Valencia, it has a very strong tradition of ceramics, and this idea of the bowl became fundamental to the concept as well. And the bowl has a lot of, there's a lot of symbolism. It's a kind of offering. It holds the abundance of fruit and vegetables, but it's also a kind of form in the landscape that has raised edges and a bottom that collects water. So the design of the park began to develop around this idea of a series of different bowls, and each one of those bowls holds a different activity and content, and also helps to collect water from the surrounding area. So this is the developed plan of the project, and you can see that there are these sort of six fundamental bowl shapes that have been created, and each one of those bowls holds a particular activity. So in the first area, there were a series of existing railway sheds on the site. And some of those sheds we moved to the perimeter so that we could begin to activate the edges of the street and draw the community into the park. And others were kept like this arts plaza in the center of it was to be the main sort of cultural hub for the community. Since then, so since we started working on this project, obviously Spain has gone through dramatic economic changes. It doesn't look likely that the high-speed rail line will come in through the middle of the park for quite some time. The high-speed line the temporary high-speed line will stay there. So at the moment, we're developing phase one of the project, which is on this right-hand side. Another thing that's come in is just trying to find the right community activities to occupy some of these spaces. When we designed the buildings, they didn't have any tenants, and now that the project is underway, they're starting to find different tenants. They're now thinking that what we thought could be a cultural building would be better as a sports building. So now they're developing that the railway shed as a swimming pool and for sports activities. But the plan and the program can sort of deal with that kind of change over time. The second space that is being built now is a demonstration garden, the orchard garden, which has a memory of the huerta, that surrounding agricultural plain. So it'll be planted with fruits and vegetables that would have traditionally been grown in the huerta. And then the third area is this children's bowl. And the bowls are formed both by land forming, but also by creating retaining walls. And on one of these retaining walls, we'll have a climbing wall for the children and other play equipment and that kind of thing. And then the shed buildings in the orchard garden, that will become a cafe and restaurant, and the space near the children's building will become a community center for children's play and places for parents to gather. And then there's a fragrant and floral garden through the middle of it. And the low point of the whole site is in the middle, which is where that little building is, the Algueria, which traditionally in the Huerta garden would have been the central farmhouse. And then phase two is on this side, we have a Mediterranean demonstration garden, a very large amphitheater, which forms a large bowl with this natural water feature at the bottom. And then at the top, a scented garden and a garden that blind people can enjoy, as well as the sighted. So there are many different activities that, again, they're all responding to the sort of needs of the neighborhood that surround it. These are some of the images. So again, water is a very important theme in the project. In front of the cultural center, now the sports center, there's a very large water feature, which can be animated at night, but can also be turned off, drained, and used as an event space with this informal amphitheater. And again, it's another very important aspect in the work that these spaces are flexible, so that they can have one activity during the day and different activities at night, be programmed in different ways. So just some of the views of that amphitheater. This is a view of that the orchard garden. With the various plants and vegetables. We work together with the people from Parks and Gardens within the Valencia government to develop the planting plans and the irrigation strategy for this area. Some images of the kids' climbing wall and the central avenue, the central spine that runs north-south through the site. with its tall palm trees and flowering jacarandas. One of the important aspects was the whole drainage system. Because the water table is quite high, we have a system whereby water is collected at the bottom of those bowls. It's held inside cages, basically plastic cages, which help to attenuate the water during storm events. And then the water is sent straight back into the water table without draining excess water and overloading the city's public drainage system. And you can see in this section where we're over the top of the railway in some locations. So the vegetation strategy also is informed very much by these different characters of the surrounding local landscape. So from the high-level mountains and the pine forests through to the oak forests, each one of these finds and defines a very specific character within the garden itself. And then we have these key water features, which generally are at the entrances of the park, that mark the entrances, that water channels, which are a historic device used in Valencia, that actually draw people into the center of the park, where they'll find the different activities. Then an aerial image of this first phase of the park, which is now under construction, where you can see how the existing railway buildings are being renovated and restored for new community uses. The amphitheater in front of that building, and then the Huerta demonstration garden, and the children's garden with the amphitheater, the large field and amphitheater in the distance. This is showing the new natural water pond, which is acting as a attenuation pond at the base of that large amphitheater, and an image of the Mediterranean garden in the background. And again, a view of the amphitheater looking across to the phase one of the project, which is now under construction. Just a few shots of the construction underway. So here you can see the existing railway buildings and the site being cleared, the earthworks being carried out to form those bowl shapes. Some of the retaining walls starting to go up that are forming those the ridges for the children's play. The climbing wall and the other wall that will frame the Huerta garden. And this is an image our office went there this past Christmas for our Christmas party. So we were all on site just before Christmas. They're hoping to have the project done by the end of the year. A lot of the major earthworks have been done, so now we've got to start very soon with all the planting, which involves a huge number of trees and plants that will be coming in the next few months. The other project I wanted to talk about is a green wall that we're building at the International Quarter, which you may recognize the site. This is the Aquatic Center Westfield, and we're working on the overall development, the landscape plan for Lend-Lease at the International Quarter. But the project I specifically wanted to talk about is a green wall that we're working on along the railway edge. And again, it's an example of how green infrastructure can overlap and overlay with other types of infrastructures. In this case, we're up against the railway line. The development land is up at a higher level plinth, and they were creating a retaining wall anyway against the railway lands. And we suggested that if we work together with the engineers, they have to build precast concrete walls, but we could work together with them to create a surface that we could then get self-clinging plants to cling onto and create a habitat for birds and insects. And that was something that was very much supported by the client, by Lend-Lease, and by the LLDC. We worked together with Gary Grant. But again, sorry, this image is a bit blown out. It was showing the retaining wall, but it's nearly a 300-meter long retaining wall along the edge of the railway. And we're working with this system. It's a basic Reckley liner, form liner, but we work together with them to understand which of their concrete liners would work best for self-clinging plants, and which ones would have more sort of crevices and nooks and crannies for insects to burrow into, and so on. And then we're working with some of our colleagues who share office space with us in Camden, have developed bird and bat swift boxes, and they are then integrating those into the green wall to create a series of bird and bat boxes along the wall. So you can see the whole railway, and it's just an ecological corridor. People don't come down to the railway level, but again creating a kind of a green infrastructure where there's opportunity. So this is a diagram just showing, the first year the plants will go in. After 5 years, hopefully they'll get up to halfway up the wall. In over 10 years, we should have a completely green wall that helps to enhance the ecological corridors, and then looking at where we can locate these the bird boxes and the insect nesting boxes and that kind of thing. And then at the base of the wall, we'll scatter wildflower seeds, and there are other bee hotels and insect hotels and that kind of thing to create this and enhance the natural habitat. Thank you.